Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. Today, Rich and I are going to discuss Travis Hunter, Tyrone Tracy, and preview the most interesting games of Week 9. So make sure you stick around. Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. I'm here with Rich Hribar. We're going to talk about Week 9 of the fantasy football season. Before we do that, I wanted to tell you about a great offer. As you might know by looking at my friend Rich here in his beautiful Care Bear outfit, Halloween is here. And as a result, we have a massive deal for all our listeners this week to celebrate. Right now, you can take 50% off everything on the site, any of our packages over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. If you're looking for betting or fantasy advice, you can onboard right now for weekly, monthly, or season-long packages for 50% off. Go to sharpfootballanalysis.com. Use the code Halloween on any of our packages to join us today. And yes, Rich is celebrating the Halloween tradition in his Care Bear. I live my life as Fat Thor, so I don't really feel like I need to dress up. I just my existence is Fat Thor. So that's what I'll be going with now for the, I guess, eighth year in a row. I will be honest with you, because we kind of discussed that you might wear something yesterday. I did go and try to find my long blonde beard that I used previously, and I was going to wear a beanie, but unfortunately, who knows where that is. Probably in the.
I was hoping you were just going to dye it.
I am into that. But I wish I had thought of it last night. A nice trip to Claire's. Do they have Claire's up north?
Yeah, we do. Oh, big. Yeah, my daughter has a big Claire's.
Good old trip. Nothing like a good old trip to Claire's and just get that smell all in your nostril when you walk in the front.
Listen, you got to get a piercing, the BOGO piercings.
Feel good about it. Yeah, no, those are always fun trips with my mom. We go to Claire's. We'd end up at Cato's. I don't know if they had Cato's up north.
That one I'm not familiar with. What is a Cato's?
Maybe hit a Luby's on the way back, man. Have a real 1990s Southern experience, baby. That's the way.
You ever malls? Yeah.
Yeah, man. Malls. Have a great time. Just have ourselves a great. Let's go back to the 90s. The 90s were awesome. Let's just go back. I loved them. They're great. Let's do that again. Bring back malls, please. Actually, there's a mall close to me down the road now, which exclusively is an Amazon fulfillment center now. Like, there's nothing but Amazon trucks in it. There's a Macy's, a JCPenney, an Amazon, and a Chick-fil-A. Those are the three things that survived the mall purge, were Macy's, JCPenney, and Chick-fil-A, and then everything with Amazon. So things are going well. Everybody's happy. But we have something to talk about this week, and that is the upcoming trade deadline, the thing that we get excited about every year, the thing that NFL insiders tweet about for a month in advance, and then nothing ever happens of any import or meaning, at least in terms of fantasy. We have had some trades, obviously, already. In fact, had a couple yesterday. We recorded this on Thursday morning, had a couple smaller ones yesterday involving the Patriots. But obviously, we're focusing on some bigger names. We're focusing on Breece Hall, who's sending out cryptic gifts on Twitter, which, good luck trying to figure out what those are. Jacoby Myers, maybe some that I don't think are going to happen, like Jalen Waddle. I don't think that's going to happen. There has been some AJ Brown news rumors. I think Florio had that. That seems very unlikely to me, but I don't know. Calvin Ridley, if he's healthy, David Njoku, Mark Andrews, Rashid Shaheed. That's one that actually seems like, that could happen. So a lot of interesting names out there. Who are you paying attention to? What are you really looking at as we get close here to this trade deadline?
Yeah, mostly the players that aren't under contract beyond this year, right? Like Shaheed and Breece Hall. These are players that the teams are going to hit free agency, and you're probably not going to tag either. So you either have to sign ahead of time, or they're just on the open market. Those are the guys that make the most sense to be moved, or for a team to move them ahead of time. So those are the two guys that I think are the most attractive from a fantasy football stance. And Jacoby Myers, I think, fits that build too. But Shaheed, a lot more exciting player, and Breece Hall, a lot more exciting player for fantasy football. Although Breece Hall kind of has the runway we want. Like, he is a clear lead back, in his offense, and it's in an offense that inherently wants to run the football as well. So how much more does he improve? Obviously, it'd be really exciting if he is on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
But obviously the Chiefs are also going to be really run heavy still. That's what the Chiefs are going to do. So It would be fun if he went there. Shaheed is the most fun guy. I would like Shaheed to go to the Patriots, just with the way Drake May is throwing downfield.
I actually have a different AFC East for you.
Oh yeah, what do you got for me?
The Bills. I think
the Bills.
He would be perfect.
Yeah, but see, the Bills are going to be boring. I think, but structurally that's a great fit for real football. But for fantasy football, I don't think he's still gonna get 6 targets, man. Like the Bills are gonna
Yeah,
do
but we
their.
haven't seen Kayshon Boutte get those targets either, and like Bootie's making plays down the field. I don't know about the Patriots. I mean, obviously with the way Drake May is playing,
Because they can't run. Like the Patriots can't run. Like it's
and we don't know what Ramondre Stevenson. Like we don't even know what's going on. Like we see Ramondre Stevenson to come out that like the Patriots might be in the market for a back ahead of the trade deadline, and we were like, oh, that's interesting. And then Ramondre Stevenson doesn't practice on Wednesday, and you're like, oh, that's really interesting. And so yeah, like we don't know what's going on with him. So it could be.
Well, like last week, last week they tried like the first half against the Browns. They're like, let's play a balanced game. We're gonna respect, the Browns defense, right? And they got the halftime, and I think they actually they were losing at halftime. Was it 9-7? It was close. It was a close game though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they just came out the second half. They're like, you know what we should do? What's been working all year? They're letting Drake May throw the ball around. And hey, they bury the Browns in the second half. Drake May hit some downfield shots. Just looks incredible.
We're not ones to victory lap because we get a lot of stuff wrong too. And victory lapping is kind of dumb because you get a lot of stuff wrong. It's the way this stupid game works. But we hit on May. That dude's good. Like we really hit on May. That guy is something else. And he's playing like I hesitate to kind of put this kind of stuff out there because I don't know if I would like say that he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You need to do it over a long period of time, but he is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. It's incredible what he's doing. And I think the downfield passing, that's the thing with Kayshon Boutte. So a couple of weeks ago in the waiver column, I was kind of hesitant on Boutte because nothing really changed for him from a usage perspective. And that's still the case, right? He's still not getting the targets that we as many targets as we would want to feel comfortable putting out there on a week-to-week basis. But if Drake May's just going to complete every pass he throws more than 20 yards down the field, then it doesn't matter, right? And that's kind of one of these weird things about fantasy. If you're someone like me and someone like you who focuses so much on opportunity, or where are we going to get these targets? These are the first thing we need is targets and carries. That's what we need. And then we move on from there. When you have somebody just come out and run insanely hot like Drake May is doing right now and like Kayshon Boutte is doing right now, then you go, well, you just throw your hands up in the air and go, I don't know. And it turns in, and I don't think it's going to be this for Boutte because Boutte has a larger role in a better passing game, but like it turns into a Westbrook Akine situation, right? Where you're like, I don't know, maybe he'll score another touchdown. I don't know what to do. And it's just such an annoying thing from a fantasy perspective to say, well, none of this makes sense, but he could just catch another touchdown and, throw your hands up in the air and there we are. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's all about Drake May though. Like that's the thing. You just give him more weapons, swerve into the Drake May, getting him as much artillery as possible.
When I'm thinking about Jacoby Myers, I can't think of anywhere he would land that would make me particularly excited. Do you have any? Like I tried to go through and find a place.
For fantasy football, no, it's very tough. Yeah, like to find like that archetype receiver, like a spot where he fits. Because like the spots where I think it makes more sense for him to land from like real football would be like somewhere like the Steelers, and like you're just not, you're just like, all right, well, cool. For a fantasy.
What if I had Calvin Austin except less big play upside? That's basically what we're Yeah, but he gets targets. To be fair to him, he draws targets. And so wherever he goes, as long as we don't have an Amari Cooper situation where he quiet quits in the middle of the season, which I don't think can happen because he's looking for a new deal. Although Deontay Johnson, hey, is that, by the way, Deontay Johnson, right? He met with the Giants. So, hey,
one wild card spot, which won't happen. Like this is definitely not going to happen, would be like the Buccaneers, just like to do a rental. Because because how can you count on Godwin to do anything the rest of the year? And Evans probably won't come back until the tail end of the regular season if he does. So, and Egbuka's been a little banged up. Like they have some guys they like that are young players, but still young, kind of unproven. And last year they saw like when they had to go to the depth that wasn't good either. So I don't know, they'd be a wild card, like a left field shot that maybe add a receiver.
That would be fun. I would enjoy that one a lot for Jacoby. He would slot really like perfectly right into that Godwin role, like just slot right in there perfectly. I'm more interested for Myers. I'm more interested in like what happens in the Raiders after that. Obviously, it's not a passing game we're particularly excited about. Brock Bowers is going to be back this week, hopefully fully healthy. So hopefully we get like real Brock Bowers back. And if that's the case, he will almost certainly be the number one target. But there are, there's spots behind him. They signed Tyler Lockett. I mean, I love Tyler Lockett. Obviously Tyler Lockett was amazing. This version of Tyler Lockett.
So does Pete.
Yeah, I know. This version of Tyler Lockett, I'm not so sure about. So I am very interested in Jack Besh if Myers were to get moved, because I just think from a structural perspective, he fits really well into that kind of replacing Jacoby Myers role. So that's interesting. And then
that's a good shout. You should definitely through next week be rostering Isaiah Davis.
That's the name I was bringing
Jack
up.
Besh. Yeah, you should be having these at least through the next week.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Davis is like a primo stash, and Isaiah Davis fits that archetype we talk about, in which he's going to get touches week to week. So if you just have to shove him into a lineup because things go bad, at least you're going to get touches and you might get a touchdown. For instance, Tyler Algier might gain 4 yards on 4 carries, but he gets a touchdown for you and he saves your life, right? That if you maybe put him in Uncut Gems last week and bet on his over carry total. Maybe if you're an idiot who did something like that, I don't know. But like if you get those types of touches, then at least there's something there week to week. And then obviously we have the contingency.
Have the 2 worst losses of the NFL season.
That Panthers loss, I don't know how that gets beaten. I don't know. I don't know if this one against the Dolphins. But the thing about the Dolphins losses, they were smothered by that team. Like they were just absolutely, they put a pillow over their face and smothered. The Dolphins did. Like that's wild, man. Like it was just a wild game. But you know, it is what it is. But yeah, focus on those kind of guys. You mentioned, by the way, in the worksheet, which the worksheet columns all available at sharpfootballanalysis.com. Use promo code Halloween, 50% off the fantasy package for the rest of the season. Check it out. You mentioned Jaden Blue as somebody you thought should be rostered in every league. I did not have him as a pickup this week, but now thinking about it, he also, what we've seen over the last 2 weeks is he fits into that Isaiah Davis archetype as well. He's going to get touches. We like the offense. He's not doing anything with them. He hasn't been particularly good, which I think is why I wasn't really thinking of him in that respect. But like obviously Javonte Williams, you know, we want the best for Javonte Williams. We love Javonte Williams, even if he's making us eat our L's this year for not drafting him, or at least me for not drafting him. I love Javonte Williams, but like he's very clearly the number 2 back, getting touches every week, and then obviously has a contingency value. So I thought that was a good shout by you, and something I'll bring up in the waiver column next week for sure. Some other names here: Mark Andrews, David Njoku. David Njoku is really interesting to me. That makes a lot of sense.
Njoku is another guy not under contract.
Yeah.
It would free Fannin. We'd get a twofer. We'd get the double bubble because it'd free Fannin. And then we'd get Njoku probably somewhere else where he doesn't have to deal with Fannin, and it probably just doesn't have to deal with the Browns infrastructure either. Dylan Gabriel, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you don't have to fact check this, but I don't think Dylan Gabriel's completed a pass to a wide receiver yet. I don't think that's happened.
I would.
No one checked the stats, but I don't think that's happened.
To be honest, I would love to know what his completion rate is to wide receivers, because it has to be 42%. Like it can't be any higher than 42%. Like because Jerry Jeudy gets 12 targets a game and catches 3 of them. It's wild. Isaiah Bond can't do anything. Jamari Thrash. Are we going to get the Jamari Thrash run out for all you Devi guys? Is this going to happen? So yeah, I mean,
you're a big Cedric Tillman guy. Dude. How excited out of the bye are you for Cedric Tillman to come back?
Zero excitement. There is no excitement for this. Like it just doesn't. Nothing's working in this offense. And like I know that the whole narrative is about bringing in Shedeur Sanders, and they should. Like, why wouldn't you at least figure out Dylan Gabriel is not the guy? Like I think we're pretty comfortable in.
I have the stats. So do you want them?
What's his completion rate to wide receivers?
All right. So out of all qualifiers for league passer rating, Dylan Gabriel is dead last in the NFL in completion rate to wide receivers. He's completed 42.4% of his throws to wide receivers. 25. He has completed 25 of them, so not 0. 25 of 59 with an interception on those throws. 0 touchdowns. 4.3 yards per pass attempt.
What's his air yards?
The next closest quarterback on throws to wide receivers is Bryce Young, and if you've had Tet McMillan this year, you are fully aware of those stats as well. Just real rough. I
think I nailed 42%. We'll have to roll the tape back and see if I nailed.
He's the only quarterback under 50% completion rate on throws to wide receivers this year. It's not great, man. It's not great.
So anyway, let's at least see what Shedeur can do. I don't know if he's good, right? But like,
he's been hurt, right? Like last week, he was Zappy was the backup last week.
Yeah. But I don't know. Let's figure it out because it's not working out. But also, let's get David Njoku out of there, and let's get Harold Fannin a full run out, and then we'll.
Do you have a spot for Njoku? Do you have somewhere?
I don't really like. Again, that's one of those situations where I think through it, and I don't really know where it makes sense. Do you have any ideas?
Not like totally looking at things up that. What about Jaguars? I don't know. Not to squish your boy Brent Strange.
How dare you? How dare you? Miami does make sense depending on Waller's injury, but like they're not buying.
You're not buying.
It doesn't make sense for them to buy. I mean, he could just go to the Steelers and they could just add they could just add another tight end to the rotation. Although I guess we'll talk about it. We don't know what Pat Fryermuth's injury is, so we'll see. Chicago get him and just put Colston Loveland behind yet another tight end. That could be something that they do. But yeah, I go down the list and I don't really know where it makes sense for him to go there. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if we end up with any landing spots for him. All right, let's move on. Let's get to our agree or disagree segment. Before we do that though, let's bring in Warren Sharp to talk about the Sharp Football Prize Pick lineup for week 9.
It's time for us to build this week's PrizePicks lineup and turn $100 into $600. PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports with their easy-to-use app. And now you can play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups when you use code Warren after you download their app. All right, we are back for another PrizePicks lineup. We are up $1,100 playing with PrizePicks so far this season. And as a reminder, download the app, input code Warren. You will get $50 in lineups instantly as soon as you play your first $5 lineup. So don't forget about that. Also, don't forget about the fact that PrizePick is available in California and Texas and several other states that sports betting isn't legal. So make sure that you go and sign up for PrizePicks and use code Warren. All right, let's get to this week's card. First up, we're going to go with Travis Hunter. More than 50.5 receiving yards. The Raiders are second in the NFL at the rate of cover 3 defense. And against those looks, Travis Hunter leads the Jacksonville Jaguars with 27% of targets. So high target share. And the Raiders are somewhat of a pass funnel defense. It's much harder to run on them than it is to pass on them. And we also know that there's some sort of an issue going on with Brian Thomas Jr. and his shoulder. So let's look for Travis Hunter more than 50.5 receiving yards. All right, next up, we've got Bo Nix more than 10.5 for his longest rush. Seems like an arbitrary prop. No, it's not. It is a great prop. And the reason why is because Bo Nix tends to run the football more on the road. Bo Nix tends to run the football more when games are close. I isolated back every single road game that he has played in his career, and he has had a run that's been more than 10.5 yards, at least one run, in 9 out of his 13 games that have been on the road. So he's doing this well over half the time. And he's doing it this year in every single road game. He's played 4 road games so far this year at the Colts, at the Chargers, at the Eagles, at the Jets. And in every single one of those games, he's had a run of at least 11 yards. I expect a lot of pressure from the Houston Texans defense. I also expect that the Houston Texans will be good slowing down the passing attack of Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, forcing Bo Nix into some situations where he's going to need to drop back and then scramble with the football due to his receivers being covered. Also, I don't really expect a big blowout. Bo Nix, off of a blowout win last week where he didn't need to run, is going to go on the road against a tougher defense and need to run this week. Last but not least, we are closing this up with Josh Allen, more than 34.5 rushing yards. As you can see on the graphic here that's pulled directly from PrizePicks, he's done this in 3 out of his last 4 games. Didn't do it last week against Carolina Panthers. Why? They won the game in a massive blowout fashion. So he's been clearing this number even in recent games, even against teams like the Saints and the Falcons and the Patriots. But specifically in this game, in this matchup against Patrick Mahomes, his nemesis, against Andy Reid, against the Kansas City Chiefs, Josh Allen runs the football at high rates. He just does. He gets over this number quite frequently. And I'm looking back at his last game since the 2020 season. And Josh Allen, here's his rushing totals, starting by most recent game to the first game in 2020 where this rivalry sort of began. 39 rushing yards and 55 rushing yards and 72 rushing yards. Those were the 3 games last year. All of those numbers certainly above 34.5. The prior year, 32, 32, 68. The prior year, 59 and 88. And then in 2020 season, he had 42 in the regular season game. So he's been going over this number historically against the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been running a little bit more frequently of late, except for last week. So more than 34.5. You roll all 3 of these together in your lineup, you're looking at Bo Nix, Travis Hunter, Josh Allen, and we're looking at turning $100 into $600 utilizing PrizePicks this week. that is our lineup for this week. Obviously, we're wishing good luck to us on this Halloween weekend, but more importantly, if you want to tail these, make sure that you try to turn 100 into 600. You can turn 10 into 60. Whatever you want to do, go over to PrizePicks, download the app, use code Warren. You'll get $50 in lineups the moment you place your first $5 lineup. So don't forget, we're up 1,100. We're looking to increase that to 1,700. We'll try to do it this week.
All right, time for America's favorite game, the best podcast gimmick that has ever been created. Rich's favorite. He absolutely loves this. His belly's going to glow whenever we start to do.
This with the
whenever we start to do. Agree, disagree. I like the idea of a podcast listener who didn't hear the intro, no idea that you're dressed as a Care Bear, wondering why your belly's glowing, but here we are. So let's do agree, disagree. I throw out a topic, a statement, and Rich either has to agree or disagree. And here is my first one. Travis Hunter will be the #1 target in Jacksonville coming out of the bye week.
I'm going to disagree, but I am very intrigued by his ramp up the rest of the season. The only reason I'm going to disagree is because I still think he needs a lot more refinement as like an actual receiver and, running kind of like the big boy stuff. So maybe that still takes some time to kind of coalesce his rookie season. That's the only reason I would hold back, but he could lead the team in targets though. The rest of the season without being kind of like doing some of that stuff. So it's by default, I'll playing the game. I'll disagree, but I also too, like when you look at Travis Hunter, like this is what happened to like our society, right? Like the shake and bake society, like things like we want things to just happen for players. Like the fact that Travis Hunter, like what wasn't like a fantasy viable for like the first 5 weeks of the year, people were just like, oh, this dude's terrible. Why'd they draft him? Like that's not how things work. Like, especially with a unique player, like sometimes when you have a player like this, it takes time to like find their way. Like what's the proper way they want to deploy him, this version of the Jaguars. Also, like this is a player, the way he was used at Colorado, like he was used basically like on vertical routes and like in the screen game. He didn't run like a lot of nuanced routes in college. We know the talent's there. The way he attacks the ball is there. That was like my favorite thing about him is just like, man, this dude just has that aggressive my ball mentality. And I think that comes from like the way he plays defensive back as well. We saw Brandon Marshall have like the same traits when he was a safety at UCF and made that transition to wide receiver. But it was always going to take some time for Travis Hunter and the Jaguars to figure out kind of how they want to deploy him. We've seen that the last 2 weeks, he's played 88 and 89% of the dropbacks as an actual wide receiver. Now they have a bye week to figure out, all right, well, what are some things that worked at the end of the tail run? What are some more things we can add for him? So I like his fantasy outlook the rest of the season. Obviously, Brian Thomas has underperformed. He's had drops. Is he playing hurt again? Does he have a new injury now? We don't know. He's a shoulder. He exited that game in London with the shoulder injury. There are targets here anyways. The run game is really kind of gotten worse as the season went on, and we kind of thought it would as well. It might not be terrible here against the Raiders, but this is a team I still think that is built to throw the football too, which I think helps out a guy like Travis Hunter and gamers to recoup some of that early value from him. I have him as like an upside wide receiver 3 this week, and that could even be a little bit low, but I do think the arrow is pointing up for Travis Hunter, the talent, the opportunity, and the deployment for him the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I think that like the bye week is really why I'm interested in it. What have they figured out? What are they going to do? Because it is a complicated situation. And, if you're victory lapping the trade, first of all, this Hunter could be a very good player that could still end up being a really bad trade for the Jaguars. So like, I know that people have been victory lapping the trade and like it is, we'll see we need to see over a long period of time, but we do need to see him used, I think, more as like a real wide receiver to see this go. But like you said, we see the plays, we see him go and attack the ball, we see him making stuff happen after the catch. And so everything looks good from that perspective. We just want to see that usage increase. I have the same question coming out of the bye for the backfield. You mentioned the backfield hasn't been as good. Travis Etienne has not been as effective. Do we get more Bashal Tutin coming out of the bye as well? We saw his percentage of the backfield touches. We saw that kind of spike the final 2 weeks, just like we saw with Hunter. Of course, Tutin hasn't been that good either. And so like, are they really going to make a big push and that big change for him? I'm not sure, but I do think this bye week, coming out of this bye week, we do have some questions here about the hierarchy in the Jaguars offense that makes it interesting. And being a car guy, I always want to say Jaguar whenever I talk about them, but I will refrain from doing that with all the different. But we do have some like interesting things to look at coming out of this bye week.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaguars are going to be one of those teams that we want to watch, and this is a game that they should win too. Like it's let's see, like take care of business.
I don't know. They're one of my 7 short.
I know you're doing all your sharp bets.
I'm just saying, favorites have been awesome, and now we have, I think it's 7 who are like 3.5 point favorites or lower on the road. So 3.5 point dogs or lower at home. And I look at that kind of week historically from a betting perspective, and there are going to be some money lines paying out, playing plus money. That's what I would say. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to our next agree or disagree here. Tyrone Tracy will be a reliable fantasy starter the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree in the sense of like, kind of like floor-based RB2, right? Like, I think that's fine. He has some receiving ability. Also, I think just with Jackson Dart, like when Tyrone Tracy took over last year, it was in a way worse offensive climate. I think Jackson Dart has added viability to the Giants offense. I mean, since they've had Jackson Dart, their 6th and 3rd down conversion rate, their 10th and red zone conversion rate, they were 31st in both of those metrics before Jackson Dart took over. So yeah, I think he's gonna be viable in that capacity. He's still gonna be a guy that I think is gonna. I don't think he has the touchdown upside that like Scatterbo had, especially as like a back like inside the 5-yard line. Like Scatterbo is crash test dummy, man. Like that's not Tyrone Tracy's game. Converted wide receiver, very good player. Would love to see him utilized more in the pass game with Jackson Dart than he was at the end of last year when we saw him in this offense. I think he offers more capability than we saw, and they were using Scatterbo a little bit in that avenue, especially with the loss of Malik Neighbors. So hopefully that is something that Tyrone Tracy can provide, but it's open here, without Neighbors in the offense. So I do think like reliable floor based too. The weeks he doesn't have touchdowns, I think will be a little bit leaner than they would have been maybe for like a Scatterbo. But I think you're excited to have him as an RB2 though.
Yeah, no, he was available in a league that we share, which was shocking to me. And I missed out. I got the bid. I tied with a bid with Hayden Winks.
Oh, and lost the tiebreak.
And I lost in the tiebreak, and I've been mad about it for 2 days. So watch your back, Winks. But I think that the basic idea there you have is right. On the touchdown thing, we did see him get a carry in a goal-to-go situation, but then what was it? 2 plays later, we saw Jackson Dart go into the end zone. That's going to be a concern for him as we go. We know, Dart's going to scramble, and we know that what that does to running back target share, right? And as you say, we want to see more of Tracy as a receiver. He is a converted receiver. We want to see him utilized in that way, giving him that fantasy floor, especially in PPR leagues. If we can get 3 or 4 catches out of him, every week, that's something we would like to see. But after Scatterbo left, so Scatterbo was hurt on his first snap of the second quarter. Over the final 3 quarters, Tyrone Tracy, 32 snaps to 8 for Singletary, 12 touches to 3, 17 routes to 4, 10 carries to 2. I mean, like this was very clearly Tracy's backfield. And if you're getting that in an offense, and your point is one that I made as well on Monday, this offense is just better than where he was last year, and he was the like RB21 in half PPR scoring last season from week 5 on, right? And so like we know who he's going to be. Is he going to be like a every week get you there? No. Is there going to be some up and downs based on touchdowns? Probably. But in the scope of like that RB15 to RB25 range, I think that he's pretty comfortably there. And in most leagues, that's going to be a starter for you.
Mm-hmm.
One more here. It is time to panic about Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, I would agree at this point. I've
been panicking. I've been panicking for 2 weeks, I think. So I'm glad that we're all here now.
Yeah, and I was trying to find examples of this, and I remember there was a year where Marvin Jones was on the Lions, and like he was like awesome like the opening month, and I remember like I was writing a worksheet at that time, and I was just like, oh man, like he's getting like kind of like really juiced up, and like he like the 3-week stretch where he did nothing, like was continuously getting ranked like high as like wide receiver 1 and had fallen off. And like that's the one like example I could think of where like he fell off the back of the year. The Chargers just have a lot of moving parts. I think they're going to be like a week-to-week team. I think there's going to be frustration here overall. I think there's a lot of people like already, like we talked about Oronde Gadsden. I don't think my opinion on Oronde Gadsden until the rest of the season also changes. Like there's just going to be a lot of volatility, I think, in this offense. They've got a lot of capable players. The game plan is going to shift based on either the game script in game or opponent. And there's going to be opportunities. Like Quentin Johnston's not going to be dead. He's definitely going to come back and have, I think, spike weeks as well. It's just that we were looking like we were going to have like an upside reliable wide receiver 2, and now he's probably going to be like a volatile like wide receiver 3 flex. I don't think he's the only guy. Like I think like Keenan Allen, there should be a little bit of panic with Keenan Allen as well. Maybe not so much McConkey. We were even in the opening month, we were all kind of just bullish still on like, McConkey's still going to be the guy you want to bet on big picture here. He's the most talented receiver. And that's kind of like evened out a little bit. But I do think like Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, Oronde Gadsden are going to have a lot of weekly volatility to them. But I also think that this offense is good enough where like you kind of have to grin and bear it, I think, with those guys. Now it's roster dependent. Like you might not need to chase that, and you maybe have the luxury of picking out when the matchups do align for maybe those specific players. But for the most part, it's just betting on the Chargers offense being good enough to still float these guys big picture. But I do think there'll be a lot of volatility amongst these 3 pass catchers.
And even when you have a good matchup, like this week against the Titans, obviously we're excited about this matchup, but you also have the concern because there are so many mouths to feed. Like, if the Rams really get out to a big lead and like kind of just sit on the ball this week against the Saints, right? We have a pretty good idea that Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are going to be involved in getting those getting us there, right? But since you have four of these targets, and with the Chargers, they're going against the Titans, they're big, road favorites in that game. If the Chargers get out to a big lead, it might only be 1 or 2 of those guys that help them get there, and then you're chasing it for the other 2 guys that just aren't going to get targets in, the second half. And so it's not the same as it is in some of more of these concentrated situations, right? Where I'm pretty sure Puka is going to have a good game against the Saints, even if the Rams are just running the football in the second half. I don't know if that will be the case for Quentin Johnston or McConkey, McConkey or Allen or any of those guys. And so it's trickier from that respect as well. On games where Herbert is forced to throw and they're just forced in those situations, you're going to feel good about all of these guys because Herbert's that good and this offense has been that good. But yeah, moving forward, it's going to be tricky to pick what weeks that's going to work out for those guys. Can you elaborate a little bit more on McConkey and kind of the usage we've seen from him recently that has started to come back?
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at McConkey, he's the past month, he's the wide receiver 7 in target share. He's at 27.7% of the team's targets. He's the wide receiver 8 in expected points. He has run hot in touchdowns, which is probably for the course of his career won't be something that's static.
Yeah.
But the targets have been the most reliable there. And it's because he wins everywhere. And that was his profile coming out of college. Like he wins in the slot, he wins outside, he beats man coverage, he beats zone coverage. He's just a really good player. So I think that just he becomes like that foxhole guy where you're just like, all right, well, he can win in any spot. But I do think, like you said too, even in a game like this, if they only have 27 dropbacks, like it could be a game where McConkey has 4 for 40, right?
Yeah,
like that's absolutely possible. But definitely exploitable matchup. Titans not going to have any cornerbacks in this game. They were already down L'Jarius Sneed and IR. They traded Roger McCreary, who was one of their starting cornerbacks, because again, why did trade these guys? Like, who cares for the Titans? We gotta get draft picks.
But. Yeah, it could get ugly, but those Cam Ward overs might keep cashing, so we're good. We're good on that. All right,
and then you also have Trey Harris. Oh, I didn't even touch on him. Like Trey Harris has been mixing in as like a run blocker. He's actually playing in like 1 to 2 wide receiver sets.
And he got the touchdown, right?
Yeah, because again, in a heavier set near the goal line, you're going to get those opportunities. It's why you see like backup tight end score, right?
Yeah.
Like people how to back up tight end scores, because when you're in those heavy sets at the goal line, you run play action. And these guys, he looks so. Trey Harris, also, who he did not mention, is also starting to weasel his way into some snaps that's like impacting all these guys. But really, I mean, same thing as Keenan Allen. It's like the Keenan Allen thing is you just check the box score. This is the question you asked. Did Keenan Allen score a touchdown today? Yes, he was usable. Did Keenan Allen score a touchdown today? No, he was not usable. But I guess that's basically been the story with him right now.
what we do know about this game is you should play Kamani Vidal. Play Kamani Vidal this week. We're gonna be excited about that. All right, let's move on to talk about some of the better games of this week, previewing some of those. Before we do that, though, I do want to remind you, get 50% off any package over at sharpfootballanalysis.com using the promo code Halloween. That includes our fantasy package. With that, you will get access to Rich Hribar's worksheet previews, which goes through every fantasy relevant player in every single game, every single week. So we're going to talk about a few of these games. If you want information on every game, every player in every game, make sure you go to sharpfootballanalysis.com, check out that worksheet, use that promo code Halloween to get 50% off those. And also, if you're listening to us, first of all, thank you. But also, make sure you subscribe and like wherever you find us on YouTube. If you're listening to us on a podcast player of choice, wherever you are, we really do appreciate it. All right, let's move on and talk about the games. There's only one place to start if we're talking about games this week, and that is the Chiefs heading to Buffalo. Chiefs are 2-point favorites. At least they were last night when I looked at it. 52.5-point total in this game. Obviously, we're just excited about this matchup. Like that's I guess the first place to start, is that we're just excited to watch these two teams play again. You had an interesting thing that I didn't know in the worksheet, that the Bills are 4-0 in the regular season over the last 4 games, but 0-4 in the playoffs against the Chiefs.
Bills fans now.
Oh, I'm sure they do. That is that's a rough go of it. So there's lots of things to talk about here. I do think one of the more interesting things, and something you may have already heard on this podcast in the PrizePicks segments, is what we do with Josh Allen in this particular matchup, and that Josh Allen turns it on to another level in this matchup. And that's every time he's playing the Chiefs, that is something we're looking at, both from just like a passing perspective, but more specifically from a rushing perspective and what he's trying to do here.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime the Bills play in these big games, like these high profile games, like this is where like we build the whole plane out of Josh Allen. This is where he kind of takes over these matchups in particular. He's averaging in these 9 matchups, because remember, these teams have these are like our new rival, like they're like a legit like front end rivalry in the AFC.
It's Patriots Colts. It's what it is.
They played 9 times over the past 5 years, twice a year, basically every year the past 4 years. And he's averaging 26.5 fantasy points per game in these matchups. And he runs like crazy in these matchups. He averages 10.4 runs per game against the Chiefs. He has double-digit rushing attempts in 7 straight games against the Chiefs. He's averaging 54 rushing yards per game. He has a 9.5 scrambler. He's also getting 5.5 designed runs per game in these matchups. And what's interesting too is because these teams have played so much, I always look at say like, well, what are the coordinators doing against these guys? What is Sean McDermott calling against the Chiefs? And you can see like some calibration for Sean McDermott based on like who the Chiefs have had available. But Steve Spagnuolo is just he's had like the same game plan, like pretty reliably against Josh Allen. He's gonna blitz a lot, play a lot of man coverage. He doesn't really care if Stephon Diggs is out there. He doesn't care if Josh Palmer's wide receiver 1, or if just they have Keon Coleman as their wide receiver 1. Like tried and true, like the game plan's been pretty consistent. Like Spags is playing a lot of man coverage, sending a lot of man blitzes at Josh Allen, and that's just allows you to have more like QB runs, right? So Josh Allen is really running a lot in these matchups. Chiefs also historically under Spags have given up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks. That's been the case again to open this year. Justin Herbert had 32 yards against them. Jalen Hurts didn't run a lot, 15 yards and a score. Russell Wilson, 27. Lamar Jackson had 48 rushing yards before he left the game. Trevor Lawrence, 54 and 2 touchdowns. Mariota had 28 on Monday night. So I expect Josh Allen to utilize his legs. I expect the Bills to use a lot of Josh Allen here. The other thing that opens up Josh Allen too potentially, and it might not matter here because James Cook is just the dude right now, but the Chiefs run defense has been excellent this year, and like they've been pretty battle tested. They faced a lot of good running backs this year. Saquon Barkley, the Detroit Lions running backs. They did face our boy Scattaboo. They faced Derrick Henry, Amari, and Hampton. And they've been really excellent against run. Only 2 running backs have hit 70 yards against them. No one's hit 90 yards against them. That hasn't been the case with James Cook this year because James Cook is running so hot. So maybe he can just run on everyone, but it could push some things to more just needing Josh Allen if they are bottling up James Cook.
What about the pass catchers, which is always the issue with if you're trying to stack Josh Allen in DFS? We just have no idea, who to put with him. Dalton Kincaid obviously, was back should be back here for this game. Not back, but should play in this game. We think that he's getting closer to full health, but we don't really know about anything else going on. Obviously, Shakir got the long touchdown on a catch and run, but he has to do that based on the way that they're using him. If you're getting a touchdown out of him, very often it's going to be, him making a play in the open field. Can you rely on that? Keon Coleman hasn't really been drawing the targets, got absolutely eviscerated by, I don't know what Keon Coleman did to Steve Smith, but Steve Smith went on a rant about him. So sorry, Keon, we like you just fine, but yeah, it just hasn't really been there for him. So what are we, Josh Palmer's out, I would assume still. So what are we doing with these pass catchers? We just don't even know where to go.
Yeah, I think you just play Josh Allen if you're talking about from a DFS angle. I think it's a Josh Allen a la carte game. I think he can get there through his legs. I don't think that we're going to see a necessarily one Buffalo Bill pass catcher go nuclear or have a tournament worthy score, even if it's guys like Kincaid and Shakir contributing. I think that they're just guys you are hoping get a touchdown. They're probably not going to post a lot of crooked numbers. The Chiefs have been absolutely awesome against all wide receivers this year. It used to be in recent years, they've been a team you want to attack through the slot because they're really good outside, but they've been really good against slot receivers this year too as well. They're 8th in yards per target, a lot of slot receivers. They're 3rd in yards per target, a lot of outside receivers. So you don't really trust Keon Coleman in this matchup at all. If you want to chase Shakir as a floor-based dude, and in season-long leagues, I think it's fine. I mean, he had 12 and 7 targets this matchup a year ago, but again, they were a little bit softer to interior wide receivers at this point last year. Those are the guys to bet on, but I do think it's just a huge Josh Allen game. Chiefs have been really good against tight ends too, but they haven't really been battle tested. Sam Laporta is really the only good tight end that they faced, and he did have a touchdown in that game. But with Dalton Kincaid, we still know the way he's utilized because he can contribute in the run game. He can get boxed out. This is why Dalton Kincaid did nothing last week. You might have been looking at it and saying, "Oh man, Dalton Kincaid faced the Panthers, right? This is what we want to target tight ends against the Panthers." But the fact that James Cook was running down their throats, you didn't see a lot of Dalton Kincaid because he offers nothing in the run game, and he doesn't play in the run game. The Buffalo Bills have run the ball just 29.5% of the time with Dalton Kincaid on the field this year. So that's the one worry you have with him always is if they're establishing the run or they're playing a conservative game, you're just not going to see him play a lot.
Let's move on to the Chiefs side of it. We record this again on Thursday morning, so we don't get the benefit of some of the later injury reports. We are operating under the assumption that Isaiah Pacheco will not be playing in this game, which seems fair.
And they're on bye next week.
And they're on bye next week. I would be shocked if he's there. That does open up more of an interesting situation in the backfield because this kind of pairing of Hunt and Pacheco has made both of them basically, useless in terms of fantasy. And then obviously Rashard Smith in there as well. But now with kind of Hunt taking on that lead role, we'll see what Smith is able to do. I don't know how much of a boost we'll see from Smith. You can talk to that, but I kind of think, especially in this matchup, in a big game, I don't know what we're going to see, but we get Kareem Hunt in this spot. This is a really, really good matchup for running backs. We know that regardless, he's going to have, the goal line opportunities and the goal line looks in this situation. I mean, it seems like we're starting Kareem Hunt this week, right? If start him if you got him. I don't know if you feel great about it because Kareem Hunt hasn't been particularly efficient as a runner for going back into last season. But when you line up the matchup, the potential game environment, his touchdown, share of this offense, it all just makes sense for Kareem Hunt this week.
Yeah, and I tried to pitch on another show I do with our good friend John Daigle that it was just a don't overthink it situation because they also played on Monday night, so the salaries weren't able to be adjusted. He's just dirt cheap on both sites. He's actually, he's almost the same price as Rashard Smith on both sites. And you have a game environment we like. He's going against the worst run defense in the NFL that is probably going to be missing their 2 starting defensive tackles. Wyatt Oliver is definitely out for an extended period of time. And we assume Daquan Jones is not going to be back either this week, who has a calf injury. We'll see if he's able to practice towards the end of the week. But it just feels like a don't overthink it situation because the Chiefs trust Kareem Hunt. No matter what you think about Kareem Hunt or we think about Kareem Hunt, when you look at the stats or whatever, they clearly trust him. They know what they're going to get out of him. And in a big game, I think that they're going to play him. I think they're going to have some design stuff for Rashard Smith, but I don't even think he's going to even take on the full Samaj P. Ryan role. When we saw the 8 weeks that Pacheco was out last year and it was Kareem Hunt plus Samaj P. Ryan playing passing downs. Because Rashard Smith just hasn't had that type of usage yet, and it's a big game. Why throw him into a type of game environment like this, right? I just think he's going to be a guy that he's going to come in, probably have some designed quick hitters for him in the passing game, If you want to bet like his receiving prop, I think that's the way you would play him. I'm not going to get like overly frisky in any other capacity with him. So I think it is going to be just a game you just don't overthink Kareem. You have scoring opportunities, game environments there, worst run defense in the NFL. They're missing 2 like key interior defenders. I think you just punch him in. I think he's like a fringe RB1 this week actually in fantasy.
Yeah, I agree with you. As I've gone through it, the severity of the Pacheco injury hit me a little bit of a surprise on Tuesday afternoon. So I didn't have a ton of time to think about it when I was updating.
It might only be a 1 week run out though, so you don't have to necessarily empty the clip for him.
No, absolutely. Yeah, like I kind of think it's going to be a 1 week thing, but obviously we have to see. I mean, like with Pacheco, it wasn't a knee issue, it was an ankle issue, but we had a longer run out last year. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens there. But I think I probably had Hunt a little, like I would rather have Kareem Hunt than Bam Knight, right? Starting this week, obviously.
Absolutely.
And so and I had him below Bam Knight in the waiver rankings. And I think that was a mistake. I think it should have probably been Tracy and then Hunt. And so, just thinking about it from those terms, but I do think it might just be 1 week. And so we'll have to see and calibrate as we go. If it does get into a longer term thing and they have the bye, that's when I think you get more excited about Rashad Smith and them trying to get him into that P. Ryan rollers. Everybody dreams for him, that Jerick McKinnon.
I mean, he's been god awful anytime they've handed the ball off to him. So I don't know if that's your hope, like you have to hope he's the Jerick McKinnon role.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to get there. And like the thing about the receiving, you mentioned his receiving with Rashee Rice back. How much do they even really need to do that with him? Like I probably wouldn't want to bet any Rashard Smith receiving props this week because I assume they will be higher than they've been with
I'm treating him more like kind of like how they would utilize McCole Hardman in the offense.
That's interesting. That's good. That's interesting. Yeah, so I'm not particularly bullish, which that means Rashad Smith is going to get 15 touches and score 3 touchdowns. And I hope he does because we love you, Rashad Smith. One more thing from this game that I think is interesting, and that's just the outlook here for Xavier Worthy. I said whenever Rashee Rice came back, I thought that he and Worthy really fit well together, and I was more worried about Travis Kelce. Haven't seen that happen. Obviously, Kelce had a really good game this past week. We've seen, Xavier Worthy since he even come back from injury. Before even Rice came back, we haven't really seen that fantasy production that we want. Are you concerned about him? Where are you kind of viewing him moving forward?
I mean, this is kind of where I kind of thought he'd be in the preseason. It's why I was scared, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. I was nervous being way below market on him, especially when Rashee Rice got the suspension, but I didn't really move him. I mean, I thought he was going to be like an upside wide receiver 3 for fantasy. I thought like that is like the archetype of player he is. That was the bet I was willing to make. I was definitely nervous. Don't get me wrong, but that's still what I think he is. Honestly, though, for being someone that was below market on him, I think he's like kind of a buy if you need a receiver because I want to bet on this offense, this Chiefs offense. So if I can get him in that role as like a wide receiver 3, now, there's going to be some lean weeks. This is a guy who's now played 26 games. He has more than 80 receiving yards in 3 of them.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he's like a necessarily ceiling breaker, but I am fully on board with this Chiefs offense rest of the season, just being good enough where they're going to pull some guys and have some good games. And to be fair, like we haven't really seen, like he was also fine on Monday night, but like we haven't seen like the Chiefs really pushed either.
Yeah.
So I think there will be moments, particularly maybe even this week, where the Chiefs are pushed and we get like a larger run out and more opportunity for Xavier Worthy as well. So I'm a little more optimistic, but I think that's because I wasn't really in. And like, I'm not like, I'm like the woe is me, like kind of gamer with Xavier Worthy. I honestly have him nowhere.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why just like looking at it objectively, I'm like, if he's going to be around like a 20% target share in this offense, I actually think that's okay to be like an upside wide receiver 3. So that's kind of just my still opinion on him.
Let's move on to the Colts traveling to Pittsburgh to face the Steelers. The Colts are -3. The total here is 50.5 for a Steelers game, which doesn't make sense if you know what the Steelers defense has been this season and what the Colts offense has been. We do have some injury questions in this game. Again, we record this on Thursday morning, so we don't know about Josh Downs, who was a DNP on Wednesday with a new injury, which is certainly concerning from that respect. We also saw Pat Freiermuth be a DNP. We might talk about that here in just a second because I think that's interesting. From the Colts offensive side, like I don't know how much we have to talk about here. Like this is a great matchup. The Steelers defense hasn't been very good. You're excited about all of this, but your quote like you wrote something about Mike Tomlin and Jonathan Taylor in the worksheet that I thought was funny. And I'd like you to kind of expand on it because I think it's kind of an interesting take, maybe like from a DFS perspective, because every week my first thing has been clicking Jonathan Taylor's name in DFS lineups and then just moving forward from there. And that's been working out pretty good for me. But I wonder if this is a week where we don't get the full read out for Jonathan Taylor.
It's extremely hard this week too. I mean, he is 11,000 now on FanDuel this week, and he's 9-8 on DraftKings. They're just keep bumping him up.
It turns out when every week you're the running back one, what is it, like 10 of the last 16 or something like that?
Well, no, 5 of the past 11 regular season games.
5 of the past 11. He's yeah.
Which people hear that, and I don't think like you could apply like the proper context to be like the highest scoring running back in a given week. Like, there's so much variance that kind of goes into that, like a random big game. Like that is a dominant run, like an absolute dominant run.
And I think it's not top 12, the overall running back one higher score.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Half.
The past 11 weeks of football that we've had, he's been,
It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, like this idea that Mike Tomlin could sell out to stop Jonathan Taylor and then just
will.
Just give up 4 touchdowns to Daniel Jones through the air because that passing attack has been.
He did it on Sunday night. Whenever Josh Jacobs was in the game, I mean, they keyed in and tried to send all those run blitzes, and they did it. You did it, Mike. Josh Jacobs had 3.3 yards per carry. He did it. So, like I said, this would be a game where like they hold Jonathan Taylor to like 4 yards per carry while Daniel Jones throws 3 to 4 touchdowns, and Mike Tomlin's like, "Wait, we accomplished the mission. We did what we set out to do." We're all just like, "Cool, we love it." The Steelers have been good against, like, as bad as they've been, they are still their 5th in points allowed per touch to running backs. Jonathan Taylor's only faced one team higher, and that was the Rams, and that was like air quotes like one of his worst games of the year. He had 22 touches for 96 yards without a touchdown. So like maybe you get that. I mean, listen, it like we talked about Xavier Worthy, it definitely feels scary not to click Jonathan Taylor, but I think the way at least initially lineup builds looks this week, like you can't play, like I don't say you can't play him, but like you need, like, at his cost and what he does from a restrictor plate to build out the rest of your lineups this week, it's very hard to jam him in over some of the other. It's a really good running back slate. In general, this is one of the best slates we've had. Writing up games, I felt this when I was writing up games and submitting them to you. I was like, man, like this feels like a really good week. And then as like I went to do rankings, and you know how rankings have been this year, I talk about it all the time. As I was getting rankings, I was like getting to like QB 12, and I was like, oh, I still like this guy. I was getting like RB 15, and I was like, oh, I still like this play. The wide receiver, which has been a cesspool this year, I was getting to like, in most weeks I get to like wide receiver 5, and I'm like, I don't know if I can put Robin Dunze here. Like I was getting like wide receiver 8 this week, wide receiver 9. I'm like, yeah. I was like, this feels good still. Like this feels like our best top-down slate in a while. So I do think at his absorbent price in DFS, I actually don't think I'm going to have any Jonathan Taylor this week. And I'm saying that on Thursday morning. It could change. Maybe we get some things open up. We talked about Kareem Hunt. He frees a little bit up, but pricing is tight this week. But this would be a game where he has like around 100 total yards, and you hope he just gets 0 to 1 touchdowns.
Yeah. But that's not going to pay off at that price. But obviously,
correct.
And obviously, we're talking about this at DFS. You will be playing Jonathan Taylor. Put Jonathan Taylor in your lineup, please. Make sure you have him in there. You mentioned the slate. Like every week, as I go through and try to pick which games we're going to talk about, it's been a struggle for 2 or 3 weeks in a row now. And now it wasn't a struggle at all to come up with 3 games that I wanted to talk about. In fact, we're not going to go over the Cardinals and the Cowboys because it's on Monday night. And I thought, maybe we'll talk more about just like main slate games and things like that. But that game is going to be fun too. Make sure you go to Sharp Football Analysis and read that. By the way, that Monday night one is available to everybody. So go and check that out. You get an idea what the worksheet is. And then you can use promo code Halloween, 50% off. So there you go. Let's get to the Steelers side of this game. I do think thinking about the Steelers here having to throw more is interesting, especially with this Colts defense and kind of where we are with that. And especially if Pat Freiermuth does end up missing. Now, we have had other tight ends involved, right? Like with Washington, and we've seen some of that. But I do wonder if Freiermuth is out, could this be like a Jonnu Smith moment? Could we have a nice Jonnu Smith moment in this game? We could use him as maybe as a streaming tight end 1. We could use him as a run back in some of our DFS lineups. Where do you stand on him?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe. No, I can't give you a definitive answer. I can't say that Pat Freiermuth being out makes Darnell Washington or Jonnu Smith like good plays, right? Like we don't know. I mean, they're probably still going to split work. Cam Hayward will probably be,
Yep.
involved in some capacity as well. So you're kind of just like doing the whack-a-mole game. You're hoping he scores a touchdown potentially. I mean, I do like the game environment for the Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to have offensive success here. The Colts are not a good defense. Like they are a team. They're 30th in yards allowed per drive. They're kind of a bend but don't break defense, like kind of the antithesis of that. I expect this game to be back and forth, though. I think the Steelers will push them, and because the Steelers have been just giving up yardage like left and right to teams, we've seen Aaron Rodgers be like really viable. I don't think it makes Aaron Rodgers like a play that you're going to chase in DFS because he doesn't really offer that kind of like upside, but he's averaging 35 dropbacks per game the past 3 weeks. That's like mid-rangey. Not at the bottom of the league like a typical Arthur Smith offense. He actually averages more passing points per attempt than Daniel Jones this year. He's the QB8. He leads the NFL in touchdown rate. He's been really serviceable as like a QB2 plus in your 2 QB leagues, right? And I do think they're going to be able to throw on the Colts. I'm a little bit worried that they're not able to like run as effectively as they probably want. Colts don't have a good run defense, but they're good against the types of runs that the Steelers like to run. Jaylen Warren, like he's third in the NFL in rate of inside zone runs. It's like not where you want to be running on the Colts. You want to be running on the edges against the Colts. You want to be running at DeForest Buckner. So maybe we can get some more Jaylen Warren outside runs. Maybe they flip those into the game plan this week because you don't want to really run at DeForest Buckner. Those inside zone runs, they are 8th in success rate against those. But I think this is the spot where I'd be a little more bullish on like a DK Metcalf as a potential bring back. He's 5.5 on DraftKings, 5,500. I think it as like a wide receiver 2+ in your fantasy leagues, you feel probably a little more bullish on him. Colts have allowed the most receptions to wide receivers over the past 3 weeks. They're 31st in yards. So he'd be the one guy I like have confidence in. Now, could any of these other guys do something in this game? I think the opportunities will be there. It's just a lot more guesswork with the ancillary guys because in the Arthur Smith offenses, it's always guesswork with these ancillary guys.
All right. Well, I won't try to sell you Calvin Austin then, or definitely not going to try to sell you.
I mean, if you have a favorite, like I really won't push back on. If you're like, hey, I found this signal, cool. Because I do think the Steelers are going to move the football in this game.
And Calvin Austin, it was good that we saw him come back and then just kind of step right back into that same role. We know he can create some big plays. So like there's some interest there, but we are talking about like, these are all flyers. These are all just like hoping for the best. You're building a bunch of lineups. We're going to throw those guys in there. But I think the overarching idea that the Colts will likely push the Steelers to throw more, and the Steelers will likely have success when they're throwing it. That's the overarching idea here. And I think from that, you can start to build out what you want to do and try to decide, am I desperate enough to try Jonnu Smith or try Calvin Austin? Probably not desperate enough to try Roman Wilson. Even though
I love Tyler Warren in this game, your boy Tyler Warren, and he's priced. He's priced underneath Tucker Kraft this week, who's like the Sims right now want to push you to Tucker Kraft. And so like I like the idea of playing Warren because and just the Colts passing like Daniel Jones, Tyler Warren, DK Metcalf, take a little triumvirate. I like a lot.
Yeah, and the thing about Warren is, if we do get the pushback and they actually have to throw, like we're with the Colts this year, and it's wild that we're here with the Colts, but we're to the Eagles last year, where you're just hoping they have to throw in the second half. And so if they have to throw in the second half and we get like a full second
Tyler
half,
Warren splits were crazy. That I put in the worksheet?
Yeah, the second half splits for Warren are wild.
He's the tight end 1 in fantasy scoring in the first half of NFL games this year, and he's the tight end 28 in the second half scoring. He averages 9 pass routes per game in the second half.
And the Steelers have been dreadful against.
Well, not even tight ends. The style of tight end Tyler Warren is. You saw his like the yak guy because they blitz a lot. Yeah. They give you the opportunity these tight ends to play 1-on-1 in the middle of the field, and if you get Tyler Warren like a Tucker Kraft in 1-on-1 space, like that first guy's probably not making the tackle on him, and now we're just creating yards after catch.
It's weird how good you probably feel about the top of the tight end rankings, right? Like, because we get McBride against, obviously, Kyler's coming back, so, we don't get touchdowns with McBride whenever Kyler plays. But you get McBride against the Cowboys, you get Bowers coming back against the
Jaguars. And Bowers is 5K on DraftKings.
And then you have Tucker Kraft, our one true king, Tucker Kraft, who I have to say again, we've been on Tucker Kraft Tucker Kraft being George Kittle light. We've been saying that for years. You got to.
He's the antithesis of like just bet on a good football player, even though like the line when you're doing like projections, right? You're like, oh, you got the Packers run out, right? It's like, well, they don't throw a lot. Someone's gonna get squeezed, and he was like never gonna like ultimately pop in projections, but you're like, gosh, this dude's such a good football player. What if I just bet on the good football player and that just sorting itself out? And
it literally is George Kittle. It is crazy that we have the exact George Kittle mold here for Tucker Kraft, and long may he continue and long may he stay healthy. But then you have Warren, and you're looking at the top of these tight end rankings, and suddenly you feel, like you said with the wide receivers, suddenly you feel pretty good about everything.
And Warren gets all the cheat code stuff that we look for. Like he gets all this RPO play action first read stuff, and that's what you really love about him.
So we're running out of time, and the thing about I really wanted to talk about Bears and Bengals. 51.5 point total, Bears -3.
I mean, I would love to too. Who's playing?
That's the problem. We have so many injury situations. I think what we should say here is if Flacco is playing, we are very, very excited about what this game can be, assuming that DJ Moore and Rome Odunze are healthy on the other side. Like every wide receiver for the Bears was out on Wednesday.
Yeah, Zacchaeus. Burden probably is out.
Burden, I would assume, is out. Assuming Zacchaeus is out. DJ Moore, it seems like he's just working through that injury. He's probably going to play.
Same thing. Him and Swift, I think we're never going to see practice on Wednesday, Thursday, maybe the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree. But like this is one of those where if we get to Friday and Flacco's playing and Moore and Odunze are playing and Swift is playing, like this is going to be a game I think we're really excited about for DFS. And that's really what I wanted to touch on. The other part of it, though, I do think is interesting. I almost made Kyle Monangai my uncut gem for this week. He's probably too popular for that. Like maybe that's not digging far enough, but the Bengals are 30th in yards per carry allowed to running backs, dead last in negative runs forced, 26th in explosive runs allowed, 28th in yards before contact allowed. It's been close to an even split the last two games because of Swift's injury. So I am all in on Monangai this week. I think he could be a great bye week fill-in for you if you're, if you need that, or if you're just on a super, like I'm in a 14-team league where I'm just every week searching for an RB2, and I think I'm going to put Monangai there. But the other part of it, the other
you're more bullish on Monangai if Flacco's out.
Oh, absolutely. Like if Flacco is out, I'm bullish on Monangai regardless because I just think this Bengals defense is that bad. But if Flacco is out and we're getting Browning in here, we're wheels up on Monangai.
Because that's how this game fails. And I still think like Browning could be relatively interesting in this matchup because the Bears are that bad. But like the way this game fails is Browning has a couple turnovers and Ben Johnson does what he did the 2 games out of the bye. And like, especially like the Saints game being like the corollary to this. So like they're just running the ball. Because
that's what he wants to do. So if you give him the opportunity to do that, that's what Ben Johnson wants to do. And so, that outlet is here from Monangai as well. And on top of just being, an absolutely great matchup for him, for sure. The other backfield's so interesting to me, though, because of Chase Brown and what we've seen recently, is that we saw Chase Brown come out and like we've seen that share of backfield touches go down and down and down. And in fact, there was a couple weeks ago where I had Samaje Perine in the waiver column, not high, he was like the 7th running back or something like that. But I was like, hey, this is an interesting trend that we're looking at with this. And, maybe we should pay attention to it. But it seems like it's leveled off a little bit. It seems like we've established this split where it is. And now that this split is here and it could be schedule driven, there are lots of reasons it could happen. But Chase Brown suddenly doesn't suck anymore. And I'm like, what is happening with Brown? Like, were they using him too much? Is he better in this situation? It's just a really odd thing. I will tell you, I did trade Chase Brown for Kenneth Walker, and I hate this guy. I'm annoyed with this guy.
Hate guy swap.
That guy trade. And since then, Chase Brown's been amazing. So it could be me because I've been a Chase Brown fan since the beginning. So it's possible that me jumping off the bandwagon is ultimately what did this. But it's interesting to see that what we really wanted was him to be that lead back, that clear lead back. Now we're not getting it, and then suddenly his success rate has gone up. And it's just it's an odd thing to watch. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's kind of unique because we're seeing like a little bit like a 60-40 type of split. And then, it's made Chase Brown a little bit more reliant on explosives. He's not getting the complete run out as a pass catcher as well. And this is a team, I think, ultimately big picture, we're just going to assume is just going to be throwing the football. So I actually would use these 2 weeks to get out of Chase Brown.
I think that's fair. I think it does feel unsustainable where we are right now.
Because if he's not going to be catching passes and he's not going to have the full workload that he had like the end of last year, like last year you just cared about like he was in a good offense and he was literally getting like 95% of the backfield
He was
touches.
that Christian McCaffrey level usage. Like he was wild. Yeah.
And that's what he needs. So like I feel like if he's a player that has to rely on rushing efficiency, it's gonna be we're not gonna run as hot as we have in these last 2 weeks. It's a shorthand. But I understand like teams are strapped. You're just happy that he's alive right now because it looked like you were just like a complete roster, like a
it looked like
clogger.
he was going to the land of Isaiah Pacheco. So at least we've gotten over that. All right, there's more on that game, and again, it'll be updated with injuries later in the week.
Yeah, that's one I am not changed yet because I figured I don't want to do the game where I'm just like I'm changing something every day. I'm just gonna wait till Friday afternoon and re-update it.
So go and make sure you check out Bengals Bears, the worksheet. Everything will be updated in there with all the injuries later in the week. Every other game is previewed. It's available at sharpfootballanalysis.com. It's part of our fantasy package. Again, you get 50% off using promo code Halloween. So make sure you do that. All right, let's get on to our Uncut Gems. I got saved last week with a Tyler Algier nonsense touchdown in that game. You had a much better call with Jalen Noel there. So who do you have this week?
Listen, I'm gonna go to a Ray Summerlin favorite this week, and my guy is going to be Darius Slayton.
Hey, I had him in the waiver column this week too. Like I didn't have him as high as the guy I'm going to talk about, but like it makes sense. Everything makes sense for Darius Slayton this week.
Yeah, that game too, I think is appealing for like an early game potential, like stack them up game too, because the Giants guys are so cheap, and I think Juwan Jennings offers some intrigue, and you just jam Christian McCaffrey in. Great matchup for Christian McCaffrey. But I do like Darius Slayton because he's been like the story of just like near misses. Like if you look at his last 2 box scores, they aren't good. But in week 5, he was underthrown on a flea flicker that was like a walk-in touchdown. Obviously would have changed the game. Now you don't get these. I'm sorry. Like, sorry doesn't put the Triscuit crackers in your stomach, Eric. But this is still what happened though. Like, we got to now add context to these things. And then last week he had the 68-yard touchdown called back on. I don't even know what they called it back on. The offensive pass interference. Sure.
Can we stop that, by the way? Could we stop calling back cool plays on nonsense offensive pass interference?
Yeah. Remember the Patriots 2 weeks ago against the Saints had two called back. Yeah. I'm just kind of like, well, what are we calling? But he has had 20%, 23% target rate per route run in these last 2 games, playing with Jackson Dart. I also still believe he's the archetype of receiver that like Jackson Dart like wants to throw to, like downfield targets. And the 49ers have been good against outside receivers, but like as we seen last week, like we're out of bodies, man. Like we're out of defenders. Like so even like.
And ultimately, if you can't get pressure, it doesn't matter how good your secondary is.
And when you can't get pressure, what does it open up? The vertical passing. Because it was one thing, like their pass rush fell off without Nick Bosa. They were 31st in the league, but then they lost Bryce Huff, who led the team in pressures and sacks when Nick Bosa was off the field. It looks like he's not going to play again this week. So I like this for some potential for some shot plays. A guy like Darius Slayton in this game to cash in one that they don't call back or get negated or something goofy happen.
That was always the theory, though, on Slayton. I drafted a lot of Slayton with Jackson Dart, is that, hey, this really fits where Jackson Dart, at least what I assume he wants to be based on what we saw in college. And so hopefully we can get a lot of those. I went in the same vein with looking for a shot play. I went with Alex Pierce in that game, that Colts game versus Steelers. Steelers allowed the 3rd most points per game to wide receivers over the last 5 weeks. They are 26th in yards per attempt allowed on throws, 20 air yards or more. They're 21st. The rate of 20-plus yard gains allowed in the passing game since returning from injury. Pierce has run around on 90.3% of Indy's dropbacks, has 21.1% of the team's targets and 59.4% of the team's air yards. As we mentioned, Josh Downs was a DNP on Wednesday, which could, they don't play anywhere near a similar role, but it does still open up some targets if Josh Downs isn't able to get out there. We like the matchup. We think the Steelers could push him to throw in the second half. Pierce has been making plays. He's been getting targets. Everything really sets up here for Alex Pierce. And I'm already unhappy with how many DFS lineups I will have him in this week because it's going to be an absurd number. But this could be 102 kind of weird Alex Pierce game for sure. So I'm in on Pierce this week, and let's hope for better success than our 4 yards and a touchdown from Tyler Algier that I'm not mad about. Don't put in the paper that I'm still bitter about that game and how it worked out.
I'm also going to be talking about Alec Pierce on the show with Warren, so look for that.
There you go. Are we in the same headspace here on Alex Pierce?
Yeah. I mean, I think for DFS, he's a tougher chase.
Yeah.
But if you do hit, it's gonna be solid. But I am gonna be talking about a player prop around Alec Pierce that I do enjoy this week.
Interesting. I wonder if I can guess which one it is. I think I probably can guess which one it is. All right. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. You get access to that Friday show that features Rich Hribar and Warren Sharp and Joe Gibbs and Ryan McChrystal. Warren, I believe, is 7-1 this year on his big bet that he gives out at the end of that game, at the end of that podcast for free, 7-1 on that one. So make sure you subscribe, check that out. Make sure you head over to sharpfootballanalysis.com. Check out all of Rich's work over there, his rankings, his worksheet, his DFS picks will be out later in the week. Again, you get all that 50% off using promo code Halloween. Make sure you do that. And Rich and I will be back to talk with you next week.